Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. At the end of last week's episode, I talked about 3 big things that we needed to discuss. We didn't have time to get them into Tuesday's episode, but I promised I would do them today. Sometimes I say like, oh, we'll do it next episode, and then crazy stuff happens and we never get around to it. Trying to do better. I'm actually recording this on Wednesday in the middle of the morning. It's 4:14 in the morning. I'm jet lagged. It's like 10 p.m. to me. I can't go to sleep. Plus, I slept earlier. So this is not an insomnia thing. This is just my body keeping weird hours thing. Since I'm up, since I have the time, since it's the middle of the night and I can't go nowhere, I figured I would just go ahead and get a jump start on Friday's episode. So we're starting off with Trouble in Paradise. Well, was it ever paradise? The Fugees. Pras just sued Lauryn Hill. And off we go. If you remember, the Fugees were supposed to be going on tour earlier this year. And not so long before the concerts were supposed to kick off, the tour was canceled. Lauryn Hill released a statement at the time. If I recall this, she blamed the media. She was like, they're creating a false narrative. And so people don't want to come to the shows. So they canceled the American part of the tour and they were keeping the international part of the tour. So I believe she was supposed to perform. Maybe she did perform in Nairobi in the last week or so. And allegedly she showed up 4 hours late. This comes up in Pras's lawsuit too. Let's go over the overview that's on Variety, and then we'll get into what's actually in the lawsuit. I'm looking at Variety right now. It says, quote, in a scathing lawsuit filed Tuesday in the Southern District of New York, Pras alleges that Hill grossly mismanaged the setup, marketing, and budgeting of their canceled 2023 tour. He says that whole tour was, quote, a veiled and devious attempt to make a big score for herself. The complaint states that the singer, Miss Lauryn Hill, secretly siphoned off money from the tour guarantees. And the full list of claims include fraud in the inducement, breach of fiduciary duty. You were in control of the money. You didn't handle it right. Breach of contract. You did some shit you wasn't supposed to do. Accounting. The money was funny, and refusal to permit an audit of the Fugees tour. So Pras said the money was funny, wanted to bring in accountants, and Lauryn said no. In a statement to Variety, Hill blasted the lawsuit as baseless and full of false claims and unwanted attacks. Oh dear. Okay, still reading on Variety. The suit claims that the 2023 Fugees tour should have been a huge commercial success since most of the shows for the entire arena-sized tour were sold out in advance. However, Pras came away empty-handed because Lauryn controlled the tour budget. He says that budget was bloated with unnecessary and most likely fictitious expenses that it seemed designed to lose money. He says, furthermore, the tour was cut short when Hill abruptly and unilaterally canceled the second half of the tour in November 2023, citing serious vocal strain. The lawsuit continues. It paints Hill as a wolf in sheep's clothing with narcissistic tendencies. Variety notes that it offers up, quote, juicy anecdotes, including one involving Lauryn Hill turning down a $5 million offer for the Fugees to perform at Coachella because she felt snubbed by the festival putting No Doubt at the top of the bill. Furthermore, Hill never told Pras about the offer or that she had rejected it. Pras only learned about it when it was too late, after Hill, in an astonishing display of hubris, asked Pras if he would agree to perform a few Fugees songs for free as the opening act for Hill's son, YG Marley, who was slated to perform at the same Coachella festival. What? According to the complaint, still reading from Variety, reeling from a failed solo tour, Hill first proposed the idea of a Fugees reunion in spring 2023 to Wyclef, who then pitched it to Pras. She, quote, realized that her only chance to perform at an arena-sized venue and feed her insatiable ego would be to reunite with Pras and Wyclef and build a 25th anniversary tour as a Fugees tour. It says Hill exploited Pras's precarious situation in which he needed money for mounting legal fees. It says at the time, Pras was in the middle of a 4-year legal battle with the U.S. Department of Justice after being named as a co-defendant of Wolf of Wall Street financier Zhao Lo, who allegedly stole 4.5 billion with a B from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. It's one of the world's largest financial scandals. While Lo remains on the run and is believed to be living in China where he evades justice, Pras was convicted in April 2023 for violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act and acting as an agent of China. Notably, he was never accused of participating in the epic theft that was also used to finance lavish Hollywood parties that cost 8 figures a pop and drew the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio and Paris Hilton. Yo, these Hollywood parties be hemming people up left and right, don't they? It says the 2023 Fugees tour, which was canceled abruptly by Hill, did little to help Pras cover his legal bills and left him owing nearly $1 million in unrecouped expenses because, quote, Hill was taking 40% of the tour guarantees and tour net profits off the top for herself. I'll explain that in a second. And then she was leaving the remaining 60% to be split equally between Hill, Pras, and Wyclef. So here's what he means. According to the lawsuit, this is on page 4, Lauryn Hill owns a touring company called MLH Touring. She is the sole owner of the company. So what she allegedly did, according to Pras, the upfront money was paid to MLH Touring, who was putting the tour together. He's saying that MLH Touring took 40% of the money, and then of the remaining 60%, the 3 members of the Fugees were splitting it 20-20-20. So Lauryn Hill was getting 40% as a part of MLH Touring, which she owns, and then she was also getting another 20% out of the 60% that was left. So he's accusing her of double dipping, essentially. Yikes on bikes. Back to Variety. It says earlier this year, Hill allegedly entered into a new agreement with Live Nation for an 18-show Fugees U.S. tour scheduled to kick off in August 24. She never disclosed the agreement to Pras, according to the suit. Ticket sales were dismal, which Pras blames on Hill because she, quote, had taken far too long to close the deal with Live Nation, and there was little or no marketing for the tour, and not enough time between the announcement and the first concert date to do sufficient advance sales to justify the tour. As a result, Live Nation pulled the plug on the U.S. tour. At the time, Hill blamed the media. She says, last year I faced an injury that necessitated a rescheduling of some of my shows. That's when she said that she had vocal strain, extreme vocal strain. That's what she's alluding to. And then she adds, regrettably, some media outlets penchant for sensationalism and clickbait headlines have seemingly created a narrative that has affected ticket sales for the North American portion of the tour. Pras, in his lawsuit, says Hill has, quote, tarnished the Fugees brand due to her habit of showing up late for shows, sometimes by as many as 2 or 3 hours. Variety notes that Hill has continued to draw fan complaints for her chronic tardiness. Just this week, the singer reportedly hit a stage more than 4 hours late for a show in Nairobi, Kenya. Oh dear. Are you interested in the struggles our children face in the classroom? Teach the Babies with Dr. David Johns has lively conversations about the development and protection of our most precious resource, our babies. In each episode, my good friend Dr. David Johns talks to incredible educators and leaders as they grapple with questions about the future of education and its impact on our own children. David has a really special episode this week with one of my faves, Brittany Packnett Cunningham. She's an educator, activist, writer, award-winning podcaster, and more. Brittany and Dr. Johns discuss how the game of politics is played, how to stand on business while building Black futures where all Black students thrive, and that there are no lay people in the work of defending democracy and getting everyone to freedom. David has been talking about this interview forever. I'm super excited about this episode. This is a can't miss deep dive into one of the most important issues facing our country, teaching our babies. Like, subscribe, share, and most importantly, listen as Dr. David Johns and his guests explore these questions with you. Find Teach the Babies wherever you listen to podcasts. Going online without ExpressVPN is like getting undressed with your window curtains wide open. Even if you think you have nothing to hide, why give random creeps a chance to invade your privacy? Because all your traffic flows through their servers, internet service providers, including mobile network providers, know every single website you visit. And in the US, ISPs are legally allowed to sell that information to advertisers. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so your ISP can't see your browsing history. I've been using ExpressVPN forever. I love that it hides my IP address, making it extremely difficult for third parties to track my online activity. And it's easy to use. Fire up the app and click one button to get protected. And my favorite, it works on all devices. I have it on my phone, my laptop, my tablet, and more. I love that I can stay private even on the go. Protect your online privacy today by using expressvpn.com/ratchet. That's expressvpn.com/ratchet. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/ratchet. Everyone's favorite is back. Keke Palmer's podcast is back and it's too good. She has questions for days, and now she's diving into the brains of entertainment's best and brightest to get some answers. From Snoop Dogg to Jordan Peele to Quinta Brunson to John Stamos to Amy Poehler, Keke is getting to the bottom of the burning topics that keep us up at night. If you love Keke, you'll really love Baby, This is Keke Palmer. She's her most authentic self, going in on everything in her life and the lives of her celeb guests. Follow, watch, and listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. And now watch full episodes on Keke's own YouTube channel. Listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. So, because all the outlets keep referring to how salacious this lawsuit is, I had to go search and find it. I finally figured out where to go find all these lawsuits without searching all the time. I finally found my source. So I do have the lawsuit. I'm reading through it. I feel like Variety covered most of the highlights, but let me go through real quick and see if there's anything else in here that is worth us paying attention to. On page 4, Pras is talking about a Fugees tour that they tried to put together in 2021. That tour didn't happen, but he talks about even then, Hill attempted to deviate from the group's 30-year history of splitting all tour guarantees and profits equally and mutually controlling the creative and business aspects of the tour. One of the allegations that comes up later here is that Lauryn wanted to be in charge of everything, I think through her company. I said MLH, the name of her company, stood for Miss Lauryn Hill. It could also stand for Miss Education of Lauryn Hill. This is page 5. The proposed 2021 tour, Hill tried to usurp control of the group, including the exclusive control of the Fugees trademark and all financial, creative, and business aspects of the proposed Fugees tour. It says Pras refused to accede to her power play. And because he would not agree to have Live Nation pay the tour advances directly to Hill, which Hill wanted to retain. As a result, the 2021 tour never happened. So now we're fast forwarding to 2023. This is still on page 5. Pras is talking about how Lauryn Hill's success of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. He says it would be an understatement to say that her early success got to her head, like someone who is bleeding heavily from a fatal knife wound saying it's just a scratch. He talks again here about Lauryn trying to register the Fugees trademark, claiming she alone was the first person to use the mark and seeking exclusive ownership of the Fugees mark in her own name, which she never mentioned to Pras. He says by late 2021, Pras's counsel discovered what Hill was up to and stopped the application from proceeding since the Fugees trademark was equally owned by all three members, such that it cannot be used in connection with any group activities without the consent of all three members. Hill was forced to withdraw her trademark application. This is page 6. It says her next reckoning came in the first half of 2023 when her solo tour regulated Hill to perform at small venues. It says upon information and belief, i.e., what had happened was Hill realized that the only chance for her to sell tickets for shows at arena-sized venues and feed her insatiable ego, this part was in Variety, would be to reunite with Pras and Wyclef. So then she pitched them the 25th Miseducation album tour as a Fugees tour. Pras notes that he was in the middle of a 4-year battle with the U.S. Department of Justice. We went over that part. It says by mid-2023, Pras was adrift and without any legal criminal representation. He was in desperate need of money to retain competent white-collar crime lawyers to seek reversal of the unjust verdict. This is still page 7. It says, with the walls closing in on Pras by mid-2023, Hill saw an opportunity and swooped in to purportedly save the day for him, enlisting the unwitting aid of her former husband, Wyclef. I'm sorry, her what? I'm reading that correctly. I'm going to screenshot it so you can see it. When were they married? I mean, Pras would know. But hold up. When was he not married to his wife? Wyclef has been married, and to my knowledge, is still married to the same woman for like the last 20 some odd years. Like the entirety of the time Lauryn Hill's known him. Like that whole Miseducation album that was about her relationship with Wyclef when she was his mistress. He was married to that woman. When has he not been married that Lauryn Hill could have been his wife? Is Pras spilling some tea, or is Pras being messy? Anyway, he said Lauryn enlisted the unwitting aid of her former husband, Wyclef, to put together a Fugees tour for the second half of 2023. Hill insisted the tour be branded as Miss Lauryn Hill and Fugees, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill 25th Anniversary Tour. This is on page 8. The 2023 tour agreement said that MLH would pay Pras in advance against his 1/3 share of the tour's potential net profits. He was forced to accept terms he would have normally rejected in the years before his criminal conviction, including ceding control of the Fugees tour to Hill and MLH and agreeing to license the Fugees trademark, basically because he needed the money. What does that have to do with her, though? So we're on page 10. It says, by July 2023, having run out of options, Pras agreed to the dollar amount on the contractual advance to be paid pursuant to the 2023 tour agreement. His willingness to do so was based on his reliance of material representations by Hill and MLH about the amount of the per performance tour guarantees that would be paid to MLH. It says he later discovered that representation was a lie and that the money he received was only 68% of what he should have received. This is page 11. Hill's ploy to appear to be Pras's supposed savior was actually a devious attempt to make a big score for herself by generating millions of dollars from a Fugees tour, all of which flowed to MLH. It did not matter to Hill if she took full advantage of Pras's vulnerability, her friend and creative partner of over 30 years. In fact, she counted on exploiting that vulnerability to carry out her scheme. Hill knew she had Pras on the ropes and did not hesitate to pounce and take full advantage of his desperation. Is it ethical? Perhaps no, but is that illegal? Still on page 12, it says, under the terms of the touring agreement, MLH was legally obligated to provide Pras with an accounting setting forth in reasonable detail all such gross income and tour production expenses. Pras's manager reached out to Lauryn Hill late 2023 to provide accounting. It says the document that she sent was the same budget that had been created before the start of the tour, as opposed to a proper accounting of the actual revenues and expenses. Still on page 12, it talks about Lauryn Hill unilaterally rejecting Coachella's offer for $5 million. Page 13, Pras needed additional funds for his criminal lawyers to proceed with the next phase of his case. The money the Fugees would have been paid for Coachella would have defrayed most of the additional legal retainer he needed. So much for Hill being the guardian angel for her bandmate. Massaging her own ego was more important to Hill than Pras's well-being. It's page 16. It says on August 19th and 20th, Pras's lawyers sent a formal audit demand and a list of preliminary audit materials to the representatives for Hill and MLH, demanding that they produce the books and records relating to the income and expenses for the 2023 Fugees tour. However, her representatives failed or refused to provide a substantive response to that demand and failed or refused to produce a single document that has been requested. So the first claim, fraud in the inducement, Pras is alleging that Lauryn Hill and MLH omitted material information that should have been disclosed in order for him to make an informed decision about the fairness of the agreement. So I think that's the 60-40 split. Pras is essentially alleging that he was grossly underpaid. So Pras was told he was going to get paid $250,000 per performance. I had no idea they were getting paid that much. My God. He was under the impression that $250,000 was a three-way split of 100% of the pie, not a three-way split of 60%. So he's saying that he should have been paid way more. The Lauryn Hill's company shouldn't have got that 40%, and that the whole thing should have been split three ways between them. He says what he agreed to is approximately 50% of what he should have been paid, or what he was entitled to be paid. Okay, this is page 19. This is the second claim for fraud. He says Hill and MLH made or caused to be made improper, fraudulent, impermissible, and or fictitious deductions for purported tour production expenses for the 2023 Fugees tour. So basically they overspent or spent on dumb shit, which reduced the amount that he was going to be paid. Third claim, declaratory judgment, voiding of 2023 agreements. He says the 2023 tour agreement and the Fugees worldwide agreement are so infected and tainted by the aforementioned instances of fraud and breaches of fiduciary duty as that they should be invalidated and rendered void. So he wants the contract reconsidered. Is that what he's asking for? Basically, he wants his monies. That's what this all boils down to. Fourth claim, breach of fiduciary duty against Lauryn Hill. Pras repeats and incorporates by reference the allegations set forth in paragraphs 1 through 104 as is fully set forth herein. So basically, everything that I read to you so far, this is the case he's made that she's done wrong by him, and basically she should have done better by him. The decisions that she made about the Fugees and the tour should have been made in the best interest of Pras. Fifth claim, breach of contract. They were obligated to properly account and pay or credit Pras in respect to 1/3 share of net profits instead of the 40-60 split that we discussed already. And then the sixth claim, accounting. They failed to properly pay and account to Pras for his 1/3 share of net profits. This is page 24. Pras is without knowledge of the exact amount of monies due him because he hasn't seen the books. And he says he cannot obtain such knowledge or ascertain the exact amount of such money without a detailed accounting from Hill, MLH, and Fugees worldwide, who have sole and exclusive knowledge of the income derived from the 2023 Fugees tour and the exploitation of Fugees assets. And now we're at the seventh claim, refusal to permit audit, which is self explanatory. She hasn't allowed him to see the books. And then the eighth claim, he says unjust enrichment against Hill and MLH. So basically the 40-60 split again. It's not as juicy as folks are making it out to be. I'm surprised more people didn't pick up on that husband line. As a winner of Apple Podcast Show of the Year award, Code Switch is the sort of show that handles race and identity like you've never heard before. Regardless of what color you are, Code Switch knows that identity is a part of every story. I've been listening to Code Switch for years now. It's one of my go-tos. When so much of the world talks about race in ways that feel either preachy or alienating, Code Switch is interested in how race and identity shape your world in real and confusing and sometimes funny ways. From discussions with comedians of color about what makes a good race joke to how questions of identity swirl around reality TV, Dungeons and Dragons, and BBLs, Code Switch guides you through all the different spaces that people of color live in and what it's like to navigate them. Code Switch doesn't just talk to you about race and identity in the abstract. It tackles real everyday questions like how to create boundaries with immigrant parents or tips on how to speak to family members whose racial views might feel stuck in the Stone Age. From what James Baldwin can teach us about Israel to unpacking Kamala Harris's identity politics to exploring the long history of sex testing in sports. Code Switch gets really real about the way that race and identity in the headlines can affect the way we think about race and identity at home. I was catching up on some Code Switch episodes on the plane. There's a really good recent one, The Beauty and Entitlement of Traveling as a Tourist. Get a chance, check that out. Every new episode of Code Switch feels like a love letter to the ways that race and identity are always connected, and how your life, no matter who you are, is made richer by thinking through them. Listen now to Code Switch from NPR, wherever you get your podcasts. Lauryn Hill has responded to Pras. I saw a screenshot of it. I think she posted it on Instagram. I screenshotted it, but it's so tiny, and it's not because I need readers. Like, the shit is really tiny. Lauryn Hill posted, am I going to read all of this? Several facts, 7 facts, in fact. Is that also the number of claims against her? I'm not going back to look at the lawsuit. She writes, some clarity and facts need to be presented. She says, I've been silent and pushing through because I understood that Pras was under duress because of his legal battles and that this perhaps was affecting his judgment, state of mind, and character. She says the tour was expanded to incorporate the Fugees because I found out that Pras was in trouble and would need money to aid his legal defense. It says Pras was given a $3 million advance for the tour, which he said he required to pay his legal fees. She says Wyclef and myself deferred our full advances to make sure he had what he needed and was able to go. I covered most of the tour expenses as the majority of the tour advance had gone to Pras. An agreement was put in place to secure the repayment of the money he was advanced. Pras has not paid back the money he was advanced and is currently in breach of this agreement. It says this baseless lawsuit by Pras is full of false claims and unwarranted attacks. It notably admits that he was advanced overpayment for the last tour and has failed to repay substantial loans extended by myself as an act of goodwill. It says last year's tour was put together to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It was being planned whether the Fugees were involved or not. It also says because my tour, band, production, and setup were already happening, the Fugees set utilized this same production. I absorbed most of the expenses myself, produced the show, put together the entire set with Wyclef's participation for the Fugees and Wyclef set. Pras basically just had to show up and perform. Fact 5. As of the last tour, Pras has thanked me for saving his life. I have the receipts. Fact 6. I am not in the business of kicking anyone, especially when they're down, which is why I haven't responded to date. It is absolutely disheartening to see Pras in this position, my bandmate and someone I considered a friend, but this leads us to fact 7, which probably should have been fact number 1. Fact 7. I was not in Pras's life when he decided to make the unfortunate decision that led to his current legal troubles. I did not advise that he make that decision and therefore am in no way responsible for his decision and its consequences, though I have taken it upon myself to help. Despite his attacks, I am still compassionate and hope things work out for him. Woo! This is a lot. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. That's all we can do. I do wish, though, for the sake of everyone, that if we could get a proper accounting, Lauryn could get the accounting over to Pras, and maybe if she would allow an audit to see where the money resides, that would clear a lot of this stuff up. Pras has some allegations in his lawsuit, but Lauryn's response, and I'm not just saying this because I love Lauryn Hill. I'm a fan of the music. The woman, I don't know her. If she put up the money for the tour, that 60-40 split makes a whole lot more sense. I hope the lawyers can get on the phone and work some of these things out. Because if Pras is already paying these like white collar attorneys trying to keep him out of jail, I'm like, sir, your ends and dividends are already low. You're trying to fight a war on two fronts. That rarely works out well for people. Let's see if we can get some resolution. I said on Tuesday's episode about Judge Mathis and his wife, I don't like it when the family feuds. So I hope Pras and Lauryn Hill can work out their issues. I think this episode might be all bad black news. Shit. Yeah, it bees that way sometimes. Won't be the first, won't be the last. I'm reading this on New York Post. It says Eric Adams' girlfriend ain't been going to work. She got a job, but she ain't been showing up. She works in the Department of Education. They saying they ain't seen her since Thanksgiving. I said, Thanksgiving? That's almost 10 months ago. What you mean you ain't seen that lady since Thanksgiving? They said we ain't seen her since Thanksgiving. Let me get into the article. Again, this is New York Post. It says Mayor Adams' long-term girlfriend, Tracy Collins, she's real cute. She's a highly paid senior advisor in the city Department of Education, and she joined his honor, the mayor, on $45,000 worth of ritzy trips. Now, just for clarity, he is alleged to have taken $123,000 of fancy trips. She did not go on all the trips. She did, however, go to India, Hungary, Turkey, Jordan, Oman, and Ghana. She got good taste in trips. I've been to 3 of those. Hungary, Turkey, Ghana for sure. Jordan, Oman, and India, all on my bucket list. Would love to see them someday. Collins, 61. She don't look no parts of 61. That's good black. She's a former DOE teacher, principal, and administrator who was promoted after Adams took office. She is referred to as, quote, Adams' domestic partner in the 57-page federal indictment unsealed against the mayor last week. Oh, here's a picture of them at the Met Gala. Oh, she's real cute. She only no parts of 61. Maybe like 50. That's good black and good makeup. I wonder who did her face. They real cute together. I hope they don't both end up in prison. Let's see. Several months after Adams took office, David Banks, the school chancellor, promoted Collins to senior advisor to the deputy chancellor of school leadership, who then later quit. Collins received a 23% raise to roughly $222,000 a year. We're rounding up by like $400. It says on Friday, a former DOE employee filed complaints about Collins with a DOE ethics officer, questioning if Collins had reported the luxury perks as required. She's a city employee. She gets perks over a certain amount. She's supposed to report them. Perks over a certain amount would include the trips with her boyfriend, the mayor. Oh dear. You know she ain't report that shit. The employee also alleged Collins has rarely appeared in the office since November 2023, and her work calendar has remained empty. The ex-employee, oh, this is shady. I think this might be a Karen. It says, quote, it is my understanding that DOE employees are only permitted to work from home from 2 days a week. Damn. I was hoping old girl had been doing some Zoom calls. You know, she was just working from home, and that's why she hadn't been in the office. But she's required to be in the office 3 days a week, and they've been there. Oh, dear. And the ex-employee does note she previously worked in the same buildings as Collins. It's not like she was in a different building. She just ain't see her. It's like, no, we was in the same building. Ain't nobody seen her ass. Oh, dear. The person said investigators should look into Collins allegedly accepting gifts in excess of 100K from a foreign government and not declaring said gifts on her conflicts of interest disclosure. Now, in fairness, according to the federal indictment, she was not on every trip. Even the New York Post acknowledges that her trips were around 43,000, not 100K. I don't know if that makes it any better. I'm just, for clarity, it's more like accepting gifts in excess of 43,000 American USD dollars and dinero. I don't know if that clarification really helped her case all that much. We're going to move on. I'm trying to help the black lady. I don't think the black lady can be helped. I can't save her. She might want to be saved. I can't save her. The complaint also says Collins' time and attendance records must also be examined to verify that she put in vacation while she took all of those illegal trips. Ooh, it's a hater. It's a hater. But you can't be mad if the hater got receipts. Does the hater have the truth? If you did what they said you did, is it hate or is it a read? Dorian Corley might call it a read. And the Post goes on to note it's unlikely that she would have reported any of these trips, seeing as how her boyfriend, her partner, the mayor who she was traveling with, definitely didn't report them. Oh dear. Not you and your man both about to lose your jobs. Damn. They're doing an investigation now. Nothing has been decided. A spokesperson from Conflicts of Interest Board told the Post, we are currently reviewing and evaluating the allegations. They are prohibited from commenting on the conduct of a public servant unless and until there is a final finding of a violation. You're about to lose your job. I don't take no delight in it. I'm stating what's a likely fact. Well, hopefully she don't go to jail. I mean, losing your job sounds like the end of earth until you fuck around and find out you could also be facing criminal charges and going to jail. You don't want to go to jail. Lose your job, you can get another job. Jail and getting out of it, that's hard. You don't want to go to jail. He gonna go to jail. We read his indictment. That man's going to jail. He was just texting and typing away like nobody could see him. We can see you. Oh dear. All right. That's is there something else? I feel like there was something else we were supposed to cover from last week. Oh, damn it. I'm so sick of talking about this nigga. Diddy, your boy, because I can't claim him. I don't know how we're going to make it through all these lawsuits. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think we will. I don't have it in me to read 120 different lawsuits. It's not a class action lawsuit. They're alleging that 120 additional sexual assault lawsuits will be filed against him. They're not grouping them together. At this point, I want folks to be heard. I want folks to speak their truth. I don't know how much money anybody's getting. The feds are going to take the first crack at it. Anything that's left over, like, I don't know what the order of all these lawsuits is going to be. Because, like, these new 120, I imagine the lawsuits will be prosecuted in the order that they were filed. Is that how that would happen? I genuinely don't know. But these last 120 people, I'm like, the coffers are gone. Like, you can sue, but for what? Again, if you want to tell your story, then that's fine. You just want to put it on record, then that's fine. But I don't know what actual compensation that they will be receiving. I'm reading this on the Washington Post. It says a team of lawyers announced on Tuesday it would be filing more than 100 sexual assault lawsuits against Combs, a massive legal action that appears to have few, if any, precedents in the Me Too era. At a news conference in Houston, one of the lead attorneys, Tony Busby, he says, quote, the biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken. One of the other attorneys, Andrew Van Arsdale, he says Combs' alleged victims include a roughly equal number of men and women, 50 men, to each their own, who ranged in age from 9 to 38 at the time. The headline for this article also mentioned there's a 14-year-old somewhere in there. It said the alleged assault spanned a 20-year period in the 2000s and 2010s when Combs was at the height of his celebrity. The victims felt compelled to come forward after Combs was arrested and denied bond last month. There was another article that I read. They put out a call for victims and they said, come forth, come talk to us. And they said 3,000 people came forward. They're just proceeding with the 100 or so cases that they felt were the most credible. So out of the 3,000, the 9-year-old and the 14-year-old must have had some sort of proof, credible. They told people at the time something made the lawyers decide to take their case out of the 3,000 that came forward. I mean, by these numbers, they took roughly 3% of the cases, 3.456, something like that, of the people that had contacted them. They said the individual lawsuits will be filed in New York, California, and Florida. And it's worth noting, this is in the Washington Post piece, Erica Wolf, an attorney for Combs, denied the allegations in a statement on Tuesday. It says, quote, as Mr. Combs' legal team has emphasized, he cannot address every meritless allegation in what has become a reckless media circus. That said, Mr. Combs emphatically and categorically denies as false and defamatory any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors. He looks forward to proving his innocence and vindicating himself in court, where the truth will be established based on evidence, not speculation. Still reading the Washington Post, it said the alleged assaults happened primarily in New York, either in Manhattan or the Hamptons, as well as Los Angeles and Miami. They took place at well-known venues, hotels, and private residences, including holiday parties and album release celebrations. Assaults were also alleged to have occurred at auditions and Combs' famous and well-attended white parties, which he held regularly in the early 2000s. Damn. Last week people were going through pictures of all the white parties and they were like, damn, who wasn't there? Like if you were a celebrity within the past 20 or 30 years, you likely found yourself at a Diddy party. And people were like, no, there's a difference between like the freak offs and then like the Hamptons parties. Like just because you partied with Diddy doesn't mean you did like dirty, grimy shit. And now this lawsuit is saying that no, crazy shit was happening at the white parties too. You might have left early. I think every celebrity who's been asked about partying with Diddy is like, no, I didn't see anything. No, I don't know anything. No, I left early. I didn't stay long. Who all was at the party if everybody was leaving early? Somebody was there. It's going to be an ugly day when those stories start coming out. Good God. I think some of my faves going to fall. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, are you prepared for like Usher to be caught up in this? And I was like, I've said many times on this podcast, the only person I can vouch for is me. I wasn't there. I ain't assault nobody. Anything else? Who knows? Who knows? Still reading on the Washington Post, according to BuzzFeed, that's the lawyer we mentioned earlier, more than half of the alleged victims reported their assault to police or at a hospital. Toxicology reports found that some of the alleged victims had horse tranquilizers in their system. Combs and his associates will also be accused in these lawsuits of threatening victims to stay silent and doling out $10,000 hush money payments. Most of the alleged victims are African American and nearly a third are white. Of the 120 alleged victims, 25 were minors at the time of the alleged assaults. Some of the alleged victims have also been in contact with the FBI. This trial ain't gonna happen no time soon. Remember I said before, I was like, oh, like it took OJ a year before the trial happened. And then somebody came back and was like, no, the feds move differently. Just because of the scope of this case and the number of people potentially, allegedly involved, it might be a year or two before this trial starts. Still reading the Washington Post. On top of violent sexual assault and sexual abuse, lawyers said they also plan to accuse Combs of facilitating sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment, dissemination of video recordings, and sexual abuse of minors. Van Arsdale, that's the other lawyer, told the Washington Post that he was struck by the similarities in the accusations. Many of the alleged victims were trying to break into the music industry when they received an invitation to an event hosted by Combs. He said the lawsuits will name a number of co-defendants, including members of Combs' family. We talking about the kids? We talking about cousins? We talking about uncles? Who we talking about? We talking about his mama? Who we talking about? We talking about his sister? Who we talking about? Also, lawsuits will name record labels, event venues, and other party goers. Oh, shit. While attorneys didn't share details about the alleged associates during the news conference, Van Arsdale told the Post the names of other partygoers include, quote, household names. Busby told reporters that he planned to pursue, quote, anyone who participated in any way in the alleged assaults, including anyone who happened to be present at the time and did nothing to report or stop it. Also, these accusations of physical and sexual attacks go back as far as the early 1990s to nearly the present day. I think I've read in an earlier lawsuit, like there was some shit happening in like June or July of this year. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like after the Cassie lawsuit, like you was still carrying on with this shit? Are you serious? After your house got raided, you was still carrying on with this shit? Are you kidding me? Allegedly, no. Oh, if you want to know anything about the lawyers, both Busby and Van Arsdale have experience with high-profile cases. Busby represented more than a dozen women who accused quarterback Deshaun Watson of sexual assault, many of which were settled. He also filed a $750 million lawsuit against the rapper Travis Scott on behalf of the victims who died in a crowd surge at Scott's Astroworld concert in 2021. That was settled. Busby, a former Houston mayoral candidate, also defended Rick Perry, a former governor of Texas, who faced abuse of power charges in 2014, and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton during his impeachment trial last year. In 2010, Busby was part of the legal team against BP in the Deepwater Horizon oil spill case. Van Arsdale represented hundreds of clients in the Boy Scouts of America sexual abuse case settlement in 2023. Oh, these are the big boys. His law firm partnered with Abused in Scouting, a group of law firms that work together to represent former Boy Scouts who claim to be victims of sexual assault. Damn. This shit is depressing. I think as of right now, that's the podcast for this week. I'm recording this in the wee hours of Wednesday morning. It's 4 a.m. I'm still jet lagged. I've only been here 3 days. So to my body, it's like 10 p.m. I'm going to chop this up while I'm getting my hair braided. And if nothing else crazy happens this week, this is the episode for Friday. Anything super crazy happens, keep listening. I'll add something after the sign off. Okay? Otherwise, we'll talk again on Tuesday. Talk soon. Bye.